on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Hey, you held him to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end. So I got 3 words for you. You like that?
Yeah. Fire it up on a Wednesday here. A Write That Down Wednesday. Mackie, Judd, our executive producer, Declan Goff. This is Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. And our mission statement is very simple. We want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. If there's a Bucks Daily and they've been doing their show via podcast, radio, YouTube for the last few years with that mission statement, congratulations. The Bucks fans have achieved winning an NBA championship before they die. We just want to say that we just want to feel the way that Bucks fans felt last night. 65,000 people spilt out all over downtown Milwaukee, taking their shirts off, showing their beer bellies, just living this life in the clouds as a sports fan last night. That's all we want. That's all we want as Vikings fans around here.
And let's just say the clock is ticking.
Well, for you more than us.
Yeah, for you, I'm young.
I don't really care.
I do have a physical this evening. That's my first physical in 2 years, so actually I'll figure out if I'm dying.
Your family history is not great.
Yeah, my family history does not suggest longevity. So
yeah, so
win a championship, please.
Please
pick it up.
Let's
pick
go.
it up.
Yeah,
pick it up. Let's go.
So we're gonna get to Write That Down predictions in a second, but Purple Daily presented by TCL. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL, and also our friends at Brainerd International Raceway. I mean, it is open for a party, baby, and the next big event is coming up here, July 30th through August 1st. Moto America is coming to BIR for the first time. We're talking 190 mile per hour adrenaline rushes. Not just racing. Motor America events are family-friendly outdoor festivals with VIP packages, camping, kid zones, carnival games, stunt shows, vendors, you name it. Kids 12 and under get in free, and you can find more information about ticket and camping information and packages at BIRMN.com. Brainerd International Raceway. Got to get Judd on one of those things, man. 190 miles an hour, the wind blowing through his gray beard.
Declan can go do it.
Feel that rush.
Declan's young.
No,
He'll love the speed rush.
I don't do speed. I don't do adrenaline. I'm actually very much like you in that, Judd.
But you draw too many lines, Dex. Like no horses, no speed, no nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I would love Brainerd International Raceway. That's a different story.
I would ride a horse.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't.
All right, let's make some predictions here, Dex. Let's fire this up.
Most make predictions and then never admit they're wrong. Yeah, that's not Mackie and Judd. This is the place where we just totally own our horrible predictions.
Write this down.
And eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Write that down.
It's Write That Down.
Write it down. You like writing things down.
With Mackie and Judd.
You know, it's funny. I think we can all relate to this. You know, Judd and I have been doing daily radio and then podcast and videos for over a decade. Judd's been writing in the Star Tribune. Declan's been doing this for his whole 20s. And I think one of the most common questions or retorts that we get, like on social media or email or whatever, is, when are you going to admit that you were wrong? Zolgad, Mackie, Declan, when are you going to admit that you were wrong? And it's great. For years and years, we can tell people, well, every Wednesday. Yep. and now twice on Mackie and Judd we do it, the wide-ranging classic edition, and then this is the football-centric edition of Write That Down. 3 Vikings or football-related predictions from everybody each week. They must be quantifiable. We keep track of completion percentage and touchdowns, and if you want to be a guest listener participant, like our guy Ash is about to be here in a couple minutes, send Declan a note through the feedback link. It's just a little tab at the bottom of the Score North app, which is free to download, and you can send him a quick message, and you can get scheduled on the show. So throughout these last few weeks, there's really nothing coming off the board because there's no games, there's no practices, nothing. So I'm going to highlight, as we have the last few weeks, a prediction that's still on the board, either in Purple Write That Down or Mackie and Judd Write That Down, that's at least just worthy of shining a light on, just to say, hey, this is still on the board. What do you think of it? All right. Judd Zulgad. You've got O.J. Simpson violating his parole and being re-incarcerated, a prediction you made a handful of years ago on Mackie and Judd. Still on the board.
Yeah, it's probably not. It's Larry Brown-like now in retrospect.
I mean, it only comes off the board if he violates his parole and gets reincarcerated. This is a parlay, by the way, because you got to violate the parole.
Yep.
and then be reincarcinated, or until or he dies, right? Those are the only ways this comes off the board.
Unless we know if there was a end date on his parole, that would be the only thing. So
That's
if the parole has an end date and he's passed it by now, which I have no idea, then it would come off the board as wrong.
I'm going to say I feel like it's a pretty good compromise for OJ at this point, that if he has to be just on parole the rest of his life, I think he'd probably...
So this is a Mackey and Judd prediction still, though, right?
Yep.
So it goes back to... Okay, that's what I thought. It's a long time ago.
Yep. All right, I've got Andrew Luck or Tom Brady playing for the Vikings at some point. Which, again, I mean, really, if you want to get technical, this only comes off the board if Luck or Brady play for the Vikings. Well, I was going to say or die, but I guess like retirement for Brady could make sense because he's in his mid-40s. Do you guys think Andrew Luck plays again?
No, I don't think he does
so.
now.
I
thought he
He's
did.
pretty young still.
He's a weird duck, though.
Yeah, he's really weird. I think he was a guy who got hurt a lot, had a awful offensive line, which made him bitter. But most importantly, for as good as he was, and he was really good, I wonder how much he liked football.
You don't think he loved football?
No, I think he's an odd guy, and I think he's smart. And I think he just decided the lifestyle's not for me. So no, I don't think I used to think he'd come back.
Feels like the Vikings would be a great spot for him, right? You can play indoors. You can. The roster is going to be better usually than the Colts was when you were there.
It's a very Vikings move, by the way.
Kind of feels like he would have come back by now.
Yeah.
All right. Kirk, representing the listeners, said the Chicago Bears will hire Jim Harbaugh as their next head coach. I feel like this is still in line to maybe happen. Like Nagy, I think the odds are better than not that Nagy gets fired after this year. And Jim Harbaugh is going to be a name. Definitely going to be a name.
He just signed an extension with Michigan, right? Because we all thought he might get fired because he can't beat Ohio State.
I think it was kind of a fake extension, though. I think it was like it was an extension, but they can get out from underneath it.
I hear you.
Kind of a deal. And then, Declan, you've got the Packers winning 3 games or less in 2021.
I said 5 yesterday on the show. I know this one I'm bounded to 3, but I still feel good. I don't buy it.
3?
I don't buy it. I know that's a good roster. I don't buy it.
The cojones on that prediction.
Yeah.
That's definitely a touchdown pass.
From 13-3 back-to-back to 3-14.
Yeah, that's a 75-yard bomb down the field. Yeah, that's a great touchdown.
So those are just the things to shine a light on here. So as we head into, this is basically the final week until training camp starts, and then business starts to pick up here. But Judd, you've got a 37% completion percentage, no touchdowns. Declan, 34%, no touchdowns. I'm at 28%, but with 5 touchdowns, leading the league. Listeners, 27% and 1 touchdown on the season. So, all right, let's get our guy in here.
Write this down.
Ash, he's got the pro setup. He's got the purple. You are either emanating a purple glow about yourself, or you've got brilliant purple dimly lit lights in there.
It's the purple lights.
Love it. So here's how this works. We're going to start with Ash. We're going to go around the room 3 times. Ash, Judd, Declan, myself. The predictions must have something to do with football, even if it's just very loosely related, and they must be quantifiable. So Ash, what's your strategy here? Are you throwing deep? Are you checking down? What do you got for us?
You know, I was debating whether to go for completions or touchdowns, but I mean, you only get one opportunity. Got to go for touchdowns. So
my man.
So this is the Josh Freeman Monday night game from like 8 years ago.
God forbid.
I hope not. Yeah.
Balls flying into the stands.
All right, Ash, what's your first prediction?
All right. So for my first prediction, write this down. All right. In the 2021 season, the wide receiver 3 for the Minnesota Vikings will be Chad Beebe.
Wow.
But on top of that, he will have over 700 receiving yards and go for 7 or more touchdowns.
Wow, dude. Wow. Yes. So just to clarify, wide receiver 3. So you're basically saying he'll be one of the 3 top receivers when the year is all said and done for the Vikings.
And with those stats, he definitely would be. That's a hell of a season.
Is there any way that he could put up 700 yards and be 3rd in yardage? Or would the Vikings not be like, it would almost have to include like a Thielen injury or something, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting that because Thielen sometimes gets some hamstring injuries. So
yeah,
not hoping for it, but we'll see.
Declan just almost jumped out the window behind him.
What should Declan
Number one Chad Beebe fan.
If Chad achieves this, what should Declan have to do? Because I feel like, I mean, that will make you can't stand the guy, and that's an unbelievable season. I feel like you should have to do something.
Yeah, it'll be like the Happy Gilmore scene where like I was wrong, you were right. You know, I'm ugly, you're very good looking. You know, like I'll have to do something of similar nature.
All right,
Here for it. Definitely here for it.
Write this down.
All right, Judd.
all right. Kirk Cousins will finish this season with the highest passer rating of any quarterback in the NFC North with 3 or more starts. So Kirk Cousins will finish the 2021 season with the highest passer rating of any quarterback in this division who has 3 or more starts. So I'm insulating myself against some
A
guy
Matt Flynn game or something.
Yeah, exactly right. I think 3 is probably a very fair number, but because I still don't think Rodgers is showing up for training camp, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to be there opening day.
So he was a couple days ago when the story came out about him hiring a cleaning service to do a deep clean. So what happens in Green Bay is apparently there's a cleaning service that does, like when these guys go away from Green Bay for the offseason, because they don't like most of them don't hang out in Wisconsin. Come on. Green Bay? Who the hell would want to hang out there for 6 months? So the company's coming in to deep clean his house, and he renewed his country club membership. But he sent a text to Pat McAfee during like McAfee's show as he was going about talking about the story, and basically said, "This is all BS. Like it doesn't mean one thing one way or the other. Like this was all of this is scheduled. My country club membership is just like auto renewed or whatever." Yeah. Imagine just like having, you know how we sit here. I don't know about you guys, but I'll sit through and be like, "God dang it. Why did I didn't realize I auto renewed that $100 like Sirius XM trial or whatever the hell." Aaron Rodgers has like a $20,000 country club thing on auto renewal. He's like, just whatever. Doesn't matter if I play there, if I soak in their men's hot tub.
Write it down. You like writing things down.
All right. Are we on Declan now or me?
Yep.
I lost track. Okay.
Me. First prediction for me, Michael Pierce will be inactive for week 1 of the NFL season. Michael Pierce will be inactive for week 1 of the NFL season. That calf, man, he's a big boy. I'm scared. I don't think this is setting up well. So he's going to be inactive for week 1 of the NFL season.
All right, you and I are kind of in lockstep here.
Write this down.
I'm not going to go quite as far. I'm going to throw the ball a little. It's a little bit more of a check down here. Michael Pierce, write this down, will not play in any preseason games. I don't know. I think it's more likely that he does play in week 1, but they just don't need to risk him popping a calf in the first quarter of the 3rd preseason game. So he will not play in any preseason games. But yeah, I mean, we only have like 5 or 6 weeks until the start of the season. Like think about baseball players that strain hamstrings or calves. Like this is a 300+ pound man, and you're not just going to send him out there with a half-baked calf muscle. So we'll
Write
see.
it down. You like writing things down.
Seriously. All right, Ash, your second prediction.
Okay. So this one's kind of confusing. So stay with me. Okay. All right. So in the 2021 season, only 5 or fewer different Viking starters will be injured in a game to the point where they won't be able to start the next week.
Okay.
Make sense?
So say it one more time.
So only 5 or fewer different Viking starters will be injured in a game to the point where they won't be able to start the following week.
So basically, if they show up on the injury report after a game, now the clock is running on like, okay, what's their status for the next game? So you're basically saying they're going to stay really healthy this year, right?
Yeah, basically. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
I got it.
You got that?
Yep, I got that.
We can make that work.
Write this down.
I feel like we might have a committee discussion when that actually happens, but yes, I do have it written down.
It could become crystal clear both ways, too.
But also true. Yes.
Yep. All right, Judd, your second prediction.
Sheldon Richardson will lead Vikings defensive tackles in sacks this season.
I mean,
defensive
Sheldon
tackles.
Richardson will lead.
Should be kind of a gimme there, hopefully.
He's a situational guy. You don't know. Guys can get hurt, as Ash was saying. You don't know that.
That's fine.
Is Armin Watts a defensive end or a tackle?
Is Armin Watts a defensive lineman or what?
Tackle or I was about to say that's where I'm just saying I don't think this is a gimme by any means. I'm applauding Judd. I'm applauding Judd.
Okay.
Well, I mean, who knows? Michael Pierce could
Yeah.
accidentally fall on quarterbacks, be really good at it. We don't know.
Yeah, Dalvin Tomlinson could
Yeah,
bull
you can put
rush
a
a
3-tech.
center into
Let's talk some 3-tech.
Write it down. You like writing things down.
Declan's second prediction.
All right. Only the Minnesota Vikings will win more than 7 games in the NFC North this season. I think this division is going to be a dumpster fire, and the Vikings are going to beat up on a lot of teams.
Wow.
I think the Bears, Lions, and Packers, no one wins more than of those 3. No one wins more than 7 games. So only the Vikings will win more than 7 games this season in the NFC North.
Wow.
No faith in Dan Campbell, huh?
Nope, 0 chance. No way.
I feel
man.
like Dan Campbell should change the legal spelling of his name to all caps. So whenever anyone spells his name, it's just all caps lock. Dan Campbell.
Man Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell's the best.
Man Campbell.
Write that down.
All right, write this down. So a story came out. Adrian Peterson did a Houston radio interview and was basically begging teams to call him.
Yes.
I mean, he wants to play a 15th year in the NFL. He's made it clear from day one he wants to break the all-time rushing record. I don't know how that can happen, but he's still like within striking distance of maybe top 3, top 2. But I got bad news for Adrian. Write this down. Adrian will not be on a training camp roster when all of the teams have reported. So he's hoping to get a call, start training camp with somebody. It's not going to happen. He will not be on a training camp roster by the time all teams report. Now, if somebody feels like they lack some depth and they want to bring him in, I wouldn't rule it out, but this is probably the closest he's been to the end of his career. Now, The Rock is relaunching the XFL, I think, in 2022. And
Yep.
Judd has that prediction that Adrian's going to finish his career in the XFL.
Yeah, he's not done playing.
That could definitely happen.
He's not going to go
Write
away
it down.
quietly.
You like writing
No way.
things down.
And then if he gets like 2,000 or 3,000 yards in the XFL, I could see him then adding that to his NFL total and then like talking about being the all-time leading professional football rusher. So that's a prediction for another day, though. Ash,
Write it down. You like writing things down.
your final prediction, sir.
All right, final prediction is a little fun one. It's for you guys here at Purple Daily. So write this down. By the end of the 2021 NFL season, Judd Zulgad will only have 3 touchdowns or fewer on his Purple Daily. Write that down predictions.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm
I
at
love it.
0 right
Yeah,
now.
call his
so
ass out.
Ash is probably right.
Call
It's-
his
Ash is
ass out.
Ash, I
Judge
am a-
Jules for completions.
I am a check down artist, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not taking chances.
You are one read and tuck and run in this segment, baby. You are a Christian Ponder
I
of
read
of
multiple things
conservative play.
that I just check down. I'm check down king.
Oh, you see that receiver coming open
Yeah,
with
Sam
that
Bradford.
window, but you
Sam Bradford saw, and had the arm talent to complete the pass. But what did he do? He's like, there's Jarrett McKinnon or whoever it
good.
was back then.
Yep, just check
I
that.
think Ash
check
just
that
hit
baby
it.
down.
I appreciate his lack of confidence in me is warranted, and I appreciate it.
All right, Ash, awesome work, awesome setup there. Since you've got this just life-changing platform here on Purple Daily right now, with the masses of people watching and listening, is there anyone in your life that you'd like to thank that got you to this point?
You guys, for sure. You guys have been my daily content. I've been waiting sometimes I'll wait like the minute for you guys to drop the content on the YouTube channel. So thank you guys. Also, thank you to, this is really weird, but thank you to my elementary school teacher for making me pick a state to be my favorite. And I ended up picking Minnesota. And since a child, I've been loving Minnesota. I've never been, and that made me pick Minnesota Vikings. So
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
So where do you live?
I live in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. That's
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah.
awesome, man. So
Is there like Vikings bars? Is there like Vikings collection of people in the big old
No.
state of Rhode Island?
No, it's just Patriots fans over here.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, you took the much like Giannis said last night. Like, listen, like joining a super team would be easy. I'm going the hard way. Like, you could have been a Patriots fan, but you chose the hard hat way to get your payoff as a fan. And I can't guarantee the Vikings ever give it to you, but we'll be here until they do. Hopefully. So
Awesome.
Hopefully.
awesome, Ash. We'll do it again soon, man.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Ash, our guest listener,
Write it down. You like
Predictor.
writing things down.
and we're back to Judd. Your final prediction.
At least one Viking starter will miss a game this season because of a positive COVID test. So at least one Viking starter, meaning atop the depth chart, Harrison Smith, Thielen, Cousins, take your pick.
Yep.
Because of and this also could include guys who are vaccinated. because all it's going to take is a positive COVID test.
So this would, I think they would maybe say in COVID protocol, but it would get reported if somebody was COVID positive, right? So
yeah, that's true, because there's exposure and then there's COVID protocol.
but you're saying a positive
But
test.
I'm saying a positive. Yes, I'm saying a positive COVID test.
Cool.
Because I don't know that. I think if you're vaxxed now too, I think the exposure thing is not as big a deal. So I don't think we're going to see as many guys miss games because of exposure as we are just flat out having it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Write that down. I don't have a pencil. Well, remember that, Dan.
All right. Declan?
All right, my last prediction from my Alex Madison call yesterday on our protection list. I will say Alex Madison will score a touchdown before Dalvin Cook does this season.
Wow.
I love how far you're taking this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're like out on a tightrope right now.
You know what? I see,
ledge.
when I see low-hanging fruit, I pounce.
Write it down. You like
And
writing
Dalvin
things
Cook's
down?
going to score a touchdown.
Dalvin Cook, write this down. My final prediction, will score a touchdown this season before Alex Madison.
All right.
Write it down. By the way, those predictions, at least by me anyways, were presented by our friends at Federated. Because Federated has been helping business owners for over 100 years in the state of Minnesota. They're based in Owatonna. They're one of us. A bunch of Minnesota sports fans there too, so they share in the roller coaster ride. But you can find a full list of resources and industries Federated offers up at federatedinsurance.com. And just remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. I think it's time for another edition of Judd Zolgad Camp Stories. Judd used to be the lead Vikings beat writer for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com, also for 1500 ESPN and Score North. So he's been covering Vikings football for a long time as a writer, as a radio host, and now podcasting, YouTube. So we've had people ask about the Mike Tice days of training camp, and you've dropped a couple anecdotes, but why don't you take us back to Mike Tice training camps, some of the most fun but also maybe frustrating years for Vikings fans? What do you got for us?
So I covered Ticey with Kevin Seifert at the Star Tribune when he was the lead Vikings beat writer back in 2005. So I covered Tice for 1 year, but it's a year filled with great stories, including those in training camp. I alluded to this and told you partially the story, but not the whole story, in training camp 2005. So Ticey, if you recall, had never been a coordinator, but he was the Vikings offensive line coach, which is a big job, before he was promoted after Denny Green stepped down and or was fired. So in 2005, and Phil, you recall this, the sidelines in Mankato back then were much more of just a fair game. Sponsors were on the sidelines. I mean, there always were, but they weren't. Let's just say back then it wasn't nearly as corporate or guarded.
Yeah.
And so there was a time in 2005 training camp, Steve Loney, who was the offensive coordinator replacing Lenahan / offensive line coach. Think about that for a second, how cheap that is, trying to get a guy to do two huge full-time jobs. And they were, the offensive line was doing work as they always did at the end zone closest to where the fans and media was. The blocking sled stuff, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So they were lined up one day in what amounted to the end zone of Field 1 in Mankato. And they're going through drills, and it's some type of technique drill. And Tice stops to watch, and he doesn't like what he sees. And I believe it was a guy by the name of, was it Adam Schreiber? I think he's from...
that sounds familiar.
It was I think it was a guard. And he wasn't doing the drill right. And Tice tried to correct it. And Loney is watching.
What are you doing?
Yeah. And because Steve isn't the boss, Tice is, and Tice knows what he's talking about on offensive line, Loney sort of took a back seat to the entire thing, and Tice is trying to show him, and I don't know. I mean, Tice had no patience, so this is probably 2 or 3 times it didn't get done right. So Tice literally pivots and looks at the people who are standing on the sidelines, which is us from the media and sponsors, like corporate people. And Tice calls one of the sort of stocky guys who was a corporate guy from somebody, I don't know what company.
So this guy works for like AT&T store or
Exactly.
something, right?
Exactly.
He's like a middle manager who's just there watching Vikings training camp because his company sponsors the Vikings,
and he's
right?
thrilled. I'm sure this is the greatest day of his life.
Bob from accounting is there. Yeah.
He's going to get autographs. It's going to be a big day for Bob from accounting.
He's got the visor on. Yeah, the cargo shorts.
Well, it got to be a bigger day when Tice motioned for Bob from accounting to take, I believe it was Schreiber's place on the offensive line for the drill. So we're literally talking.
Would you rather have Bob or Dakota Dozier in that in that scenario? Who does a better job?
But back then, I didn't want Bob, and so he literally has him in the drill, trying to show him what he should do that the player couldn't do, and we, of course, are all laughing and amused. And Steve Loney was the nicest, most patient football coach I've ever come across. Just a complete class act, like just utter class. And he is livid. He is because one, Tice is embarrassing the player, which he was. Yeah. Two, like he's got a guy from some corporation in the drill, which makes no sense. And three, my guess is he probably thought in the back of his head, God forbid this guy actually gets hurt right now. What's going to happen?
I don't know. It's hilarious. I mean, well, that part of it, yeah. If Bob tears his Achilles, are the Vikings going to get sued? I mean, there is that side of it.
Yeah, but and to be very clear, I thought, and Seaford, I think, was there. We all thought it was hilarious. So this is not a oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But think about an NFL coach putting a fan in a drill to show a player and to purposely embarrass him, which Tice, he loved that stuff. He also, and Mike McCarthy, when he coached the Packers, I found out had a habit of doing the same thing. So when Tice got done with practice, unlike the days where you covered, Phil, of Childress, where he'd go into a tent and go to a table and hold a press conference, right?
Yeah.
In 2005, Tice would literally get done watching practice. He would then go to the chain link fence in front of the tennis courts and hold court. Like he would just give you the press conference there. Yeah. So there was no microphone and setup. And one thing Tice...
How would the TV people get what they did?
They would just stand around there and, try and get a shot of Tice. Yeah. So one thing Tice loved to do was brag about the amount of plays the team had just accomplished in said practice. So he would have his gum. He'd be chewing on his gum all practice. So he would get to the fence, and if he was mad, he would take his gum out and throw it through the fence, turn around. That's and littering. The first thing that you would get was, we ran 75 plays in 47 minutes, crisp pace. It's a fantastic pace, what we did today. But he loved to give you the amount of plays. And I always laughed. I'm like, okay, dude, I don't care about the amount of plays. But, I mean, this guy was such a character. The last Ticey story of something that you will never see again, and like something that Childress and even Zimmer would never do. So there was the end of training camp practice, one of the last ones, after it had gone to Winter Park, was open to like all the big sponsors. So there would be like tents set up on those back fields. And it was a night practice, which was pretty light. But, you'd have Miller represented there, which was a huge sponsor. You'd have all of these people. So before this practice, which we covered, coming down the back stairs, if you recall, and this basically came right from where the coach's office was, those back stairs. Here comes Tice, looking like, I don't know what he looked like, but he's carrying a huge cooler of beer for the sponsors, like the head coach of a team. And he's like coming down the stairs, and he's got, this overflowing cooler of beer that they're all going to start drinking. Like an amateur coach or something.
Yeah.
Like this guy, there were so many
He's showing up for like his softball Monday night league night or whatever, right?
It was so great. It was so great.
But I miss Tice, man.
But replacing the guard with a fan is an all-timer.
That's funny. Well, I mean, listen, sometimes you got to send a message. And Mike Tice was charismatic. He knew how to play to the crowd. He was a fan favorite coach.
Yep.
And I think I'm a little surprised that neither him nor Childress ever got a second chance to be head coaches. But when you look at sort of each of their fatal flaws, it makes more sense. Childress was just he was just not personable and didn't get along with players. Like, he was just kind of a mad scientist, weirdo coordinator guy. Like, that's what he is.
And he hadn't called, and the problem was he hadn't really called plays in Philly because Reed did. And when he got here and called plays for a year, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
So, like, I think he was a good personnel guy. I don't know that his in-game work was all that great. And with Tice, I think what really hurt Tice was, one, the ticket scalping thing was a big deal to teams. I mean, that was a big deal. Everybody did it for the most part, but he was the first to really get caught. And the Vikings also hurt him a lot by making him the face of the Love Boat disaster, which he should have not been forced to ever talk about. Like, that should have been up to a lawyer. And every day he'd come down and have to answer our questions. And, like, he is no expert in that. And plus, it sort of came off like he had somehow been involved, which he never was. So I think I think with Brad, it was more in-game credibility. I think with Mike, it was the outside stuff, some of which the Vikings did him no favors on.
Can you tell me, just a fun little trivia question here before we wrap for today? I've got Mike Tice's head coaching challenge record in front of me right now. So can you tell me what his challenge record was in 32 total challenges?
Like percentages?
He had 32 total challenges. How many of the 32 did he get overturned?
I'd say he got about 5. It was really bad.
I'll go 7.
Yeah, it's 8. 8 out of 32.
8. I was gonna say 11. I was like
24 on challenges. Because he would get mad at the result of a play, right? Yeah. And then he would throw the challenge flag because he's pissed about, like, the quarterback getting sacked and fumbling or something. Like, no, that's got no, dude. Right. No, that happened.
And Mike, and you know what? Mike's done that too at times, where they're just so pissed off, they like whip the flag. It's like, why did you do that? But yeah, Tice was. Well, I look, the greatest Tice, or among the greatest Tice stories of all time, was after Doug Bryan had that game against the Bills where he missed, was it 2 or 3 extra points? The last one of which was followed by Joe Sensor on KFan saying, "Get the hell out." And Tice calls into the postgame show on KFan, driving home from a game he coached.
Yeah, it's poor guy, too. He got fired. Like, basically, he got fired after a big win at the end of the season in 2005, right? It was a celebration in the locker room.
Story, right?
Well, they had passed around the press release, and his son got it before he found out, right?
But the why? So, like, everyone was like, because he basically told the players in the locker room, or had told them, you know, it's not decided yet, blah blah blah. And then, literally, as players are filing out, and for the most part gone, they come. I think it was Lester Bagley comes through and hands out a press release saying, "We have dismissed Mike Tice," and he hands it to, I believe, his son Nate Tice, who was a ball boy. He was like still in his ball boy outfit. And I told you guys, I went out to the players' parking lot, and Bryant McKinney and his mom are walking to their car. And I asked Bryant, I'm like, "What do you think of this?" And he's like, "What?" And I just gave him the press release. And he's like, "They lied to us too." Because players had no clue. And that's when Bryant's mom said, "He's got no comment." And the next thing I know, a cop's like, "You can't be here." And I'm like, "Well, I'm with the press." And he's like, "I don't care who you're with." And they booted me. So, like, I had to get back into the building. But supposedly the story that I heard well after the fact was that came down to the Wilfs being mad at Tice and basically wanting to get him back. Tice's whole thing was if you were late or tardy for a meeting, you're in trouble, a ton of trouble. I don't know if he was a don't come into it, but he was that sort of thing, right? Well, before a game, I think it was in Chicago at Soldier Field late in that season, maybe, or at some point, he had Leonard Wilf, who owns a portion of the team, walked into the meeting late, and like Tice belittled him for it.
Which is hilarious, but dude, like,
but I mean, I think that's
do that.
What I heard was that was the get even move for that one.
Yeah.
So,
well, actually, there is one misperception about what was on that press release. It didn't say Mike Tice has been fired. It says, "Mike Tice, here's an opportunity for employment at Burnsville Heating and Air." Burnsville Heating and Air is hiring, and they're hiring all levels of experience. We're talking full-time, year-round work with lots of overtime opportunities and up to $2,000 sign-on bonuses. And even though the company is called Burnsville Heating and Air, they have tons of job sites not near Burnsville. So if they can find you something within 10 to 20 minutes of your home. And again, they'll train you on the job if you're just an apprentice. Otherwise, they'll hire leads, finishers, equipment setters. And this is a great opportunity to get some year-round full-time work that pays pretty well. So BurnsvilleHeating.com and click careers. BurnsvilleHeating.com and click careers. That's all they were trying to do. Mike, look, you can work at Burnsville Heating now. It's great. You can't coach.
You don't even have to live near Burnsville, right? I mean, that's the key thing. And look at the sign-on bonus.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, that's a wrap on Judd's camp stories. Just great Mike Tice fodder there. And a wrap on today's episode of Purple Daily. Thanks for everyone clicking the subscribe button on our YouTube page and for everyone who has gotten us up over 600 reviews, mostly positive, on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Daily Vikings Entertainment.